Welcome back to our 72-hour home inspection training class. I'm George Lopez, your instructor. For the next 2 hours, we're going to hammer away at the reports. This next chapter is around 50 slides. The first chapter was 41 slides, and I don't see us taking 2 hours on 40 slides. We're probably going to take 2 hours on 50. But anyway, we'll give you 72 hours one way or the other, because we're going to be doing Zoom classes together, and that'll be your question and answer time. So take as many notes and write down as many questions during this process, so you can come back and get all your answers to all your questions. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is your inspection report should be given to your client and anyone authorized by the client in writing to receive a copy. That says that you have a fiduciary duty to your client. So you can't just give the report out to just anybody you want. Don't even give it to your associates unless you have some kind of non-disclosure agreement with them, because this report is being used to negotiate, and it belongs to the person that paid you, not the person that brought you in. If it was the realtor or a friend of theirs or a friend of yours, it doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the client, the person that paid you. So do not release it without written, authorized permission. And our reports have a checkbox at the bottom of them, our agreements, where you write down who you're authorized to give it to. Okay, so real estate negotiations are very time sensitive, and the report will typically need to be delivered as quickly as the same day. And I'm not typically the same day kind of guy, but there is times where you have to go back to your office and put together a report. Especially if you do the inspection in the morning, you don't have anything in the afternoon, but office time, and the next day you have 2 or 3. So you just got to manage your time. It is very important. Next day is a very reasonable time, and sometimes 2 days is allowed. No more than that is usually acceptable, but in rare circumstances, as I've spoken before, you can, somebody has 10 days and you're swamped. It's what I do is I let them know how busy I am when they call me, and I ask them right away, how many days do I have? That way, you give them the opportunity to go somewhere else, as sad as that sounds, but, you have to have the clients, you have to have their interests at heart, and they come first, you come second. You're important, but their transaction is more important than you getting paid for an inspection that you can't manage. So doing the report as you walk around and filling it out by hand is something some inspectors do. They'll actually do a handwritten report. This is kind of old. Some of this stuff was put together a long time ago, and nobody does it that way anymore. Typically, you take a couple of 100 to 300 pictures. You go back to your office, and so we do not recommend that errors can be created in the rush to deliver. Remember that. So manage your time, level it out. You'll get really good at this over time. So creating the report in your office with a coffee in hand and a large screen can help you do a much better, more professional report. Remember, you need lots of good pictures. And that means the good, the bad, and the ugly. And and don't pick a house apart because they got ugly pictures. Try to be selective on what you put on there. You're trying to do a professional report that shows what's there, doesn't over embellish, and doesn't under embellish. The report you are receiving allows for lots of pics and notes. You will also receive an inspection guide sheet that works with the report, and you'll see some of that in the upcoming slides. There's a way you can just add as many pictures as you want to a report, and then there's like I said, a guide sheet that I find extremely helpful. Of course, understanding your report is important, and you got to understand the definitions and the things that you write down. There's a lot of tricks that I'm going to teach you along the way on how to take pictures that cue you and what you have just taken a picture of, and the notes that you write are just equally important. One of the things that you'll find is that time is of the essence. So you want to be as concise as possible and as short as possible. This report writing is almost shorthand, or the notes are anyway. So understand the definitions of satisfactory. I don't use satisfactory on my checklist. I use a check. If everything is okay, I check it. There's nothing faster than just writing a check. Marginal, I'll write an M for that in the appropriate spot. And poor, I just put a P, or more times than not, I'll do an X. So you got a check or an X, and the M is in the middle. And that is, you can fly along pretty good. So satisfactory indicates that the component is functionally consistent with its original purpose, but may show signs of normal wear and tear and deterioration. What does that mean? And a lot of times you'll find that for example, the water heater. The water heater is 10 years old, and it's going to need to be replaced in the near future, but it's still working. So you can't just say, well, if I was you, I'd get it replaced now. You want to say, it's satisfactory, it's working, and that's how you found it, and that's what you should write down. You shouldn't write down anything more than that. If you want to write more than that, there's other places to write more than that. So you can move on to marginal. Marginal indicates the component will probably require repair or replacement anytime within 5 years. Now you got marginal and you got deferred. So deferred is you're definitely going to be replacing it. It's money that you're going to have to spend down the road. Marginal just shows the condition of it. They kind of mean the same thing, so just stay on top of it, and you'll be fine. You can the report has a place for deferred items, but let's stick with marginal right now. Marginal means a component that will require repair or replacement within 5 years. So the roof has edges that are starting to come apart. All the pebbles have gone off the surface, and you can see that it's going to need to be repaired. Now the seller will go, well, it's fine, it'll last another 10 years. It might, but if you do the math, and the house is 25 years old and it has 20-year-old shingles on it, it's already past its expected lifespan. You can't predict when it's going to fail, but you will put it in the deferred or in the marginal, and inform your client accordingly. Poor indicates that the component will need repair or replacement in the very near future, and that's a water heater that's leaking or has rust on it. You can tell that it's getting ready to go. A furnace that has a lot of issues, hasn't been maintained well. Microwave that the door is getting ready to fall off. There's a lot of places where you'll put poor, and you'll feel good about it, and you won't feel like, am I doing the right thing? You'll know when it's poor. Okay, so here's the perfect definition of deferred. So a marginal item of higher importance should be listed in the deferred cost designation. These items will likely need to be replaced in the next 5 years or less, such as the roof. The roof could cost $10,000, so you definitely want to put that in the deferred item. Water heater, the furnace, windows. Windows maybe. It's hard to. The windows are. They could last a long time, and you could fix windows as you go. So maybe not windows, maybe not siding, but the deferred items are mainly like the furnace. There's other places where you can find it, but even a driveway that's cracking up and it's going to need to be replaced. So here's some of the examples. For example, there's a list of items and how long they will typically last. Although they can last much longer, you can stick to these standards and don't guess. Asphalt roofs, 15 to 20 years for a standard shingle. Lately, higher duration roofs have become more popular. 30 and 40, even longer, exist. Know the difference. And we'll teach you some of that in the roofing modules. But, who's going to know how long a roof is? I've seen them 50-year shingles. They say they're going to last 50 years, but who knows if they will or not. Furnaces, they typically last 17 to 20 years. I see them 25 to 30 years old. Once they get to be that, to that level, you want to explain to them that, they're not as efficient as they used to be, as the new ones, and that you will probably need to replace them. Air conditioning compressors, 7 to 15 years. Water heaters, 7 to 12 years. And water heaters come with like a warranty, 6, 9, and 12. There might be 15s, they're like the gold models and stuff. But as far as, old school as I am, 6, 9, and 12 was always the years. So if you see one that says 9-year warranty and it's 10 years old, let them know that. Follow your report outline. Let your report guide the sheet. Let your report's guide sheet lead you through the property, line by line and page by page. Do not skip around. Stick to the order. You will save time and you will be less likely to miss something. Fill out the entire guide sheet. And I can't stress this enough. Many times I've come back and I didn't fill out a section because I felt comfortable or I got to talking to somebody. And then I'm looking through the pictures to see things that I didn't write down. Try to write it all out. And if everything's okay, like for bedrooms, I'll write floor, walls, and ceilings. It's FWC and I'll put a check to it. That means that floors, walls, and ceilings are okay. You don't have to write it all out. But then after that, you might put, hole in the wall or something like that. It's just very important that you mark it all. Items marked marginal or poor will need explanation and the proper check marks. Specific comments with errors on the pictures will help communicate your findings. So, and not just those two problems. Sometimes the good stuff needs explaining too, and with an arrow. Like, where's the main water shut off? And we'll get to all that. But I'm going to try to stick on point here. All right, so use cues to remind yourself. How you take a picture can help you tell what you're trying to communicate. For example, what I do is I'll take a picture of, if a door doesn't close properly, or latch properly, I will take a picture of it rubbing the frame or the doorknob. I'll take a picture of the door. I'll write what bedroom or what area it is on, and then I will take a picture of the door and then the knob itself close to the frame. So it looks like, and I'm going to show you pictures of this. I didn't isolate some of these pictures out during this, and I will improve on this class as I go. But I will show you all this as we go. Okay, a hose bib turn on in the winter months can mean that it is winterizing. It needs winterizing. So I will turn on a water faucet on hose bibs always. And I'll take a picture of it with the water running or if it's off. If I turn it on, open it, and there's no water coming out of it, I'll take a picture of it. Because I know that I took a picture of it with the knob open. And if it's on, now it could be a winter safe hose bib, but it's always good to just mention it that it should be winterized anyway, because you never know, things do fail. A close-up pick of a window latch, a faucet, a hinge can all serve to remind you that there is a comment that needs to be added. Use all your intellectual tools to be concise. Camera, notes, and memory can all be powerful tools for an inspector. Develop your own techniques. Absolutely. Whatever makes you tick, make it happen. And sometimes you'll do 3 inspections. And those, when you're going through the pictures, it is so helpful to know what you took a picture of and why you took a picture of it. And if you do 3 inspections in a day and you didn't do this or you didn't write it all out, you're going to be hating yourself later. You might even have to go back and redo some of the stuff or refresh your memory. It's not unheard of. I've done it. I've gone back, and it's what you do. You got to be right. Okay, so we're at the inspection agreement, and I am going to work my way through this. It's been a while since I've read the whole thing, so this will be a good refresher for me, and I will explain everything as I go. You're welcome to use whatever agreement you prefer. This was an agreement that I've been using for years. It was put together by a lawyer that and it has not been updated in a long time. But I think everything still applies. It's the one we use. And if you if you go to work for yourself and you want your lawyer to look it over, by all means, we're going to provide it to you as part of your class. Okay, so first you put the company name, obviously, that's you, us, the client's name, the property, and the services. That's all what you're going to be providing and to whom The signature, I only have one of the buyers usually do the signature. I don't have both of them do it. One signing off for the other is usually enough. But again, ask your lawyer for any cues on that. All right, so this agreement is made and entered into by and between Everyday Home Inspection, referred to as the inspector, and the client's name shown above refers to as the client. In consideration of the promise and terms of this agreement, the parties agree as follows. The client will pay the fee agreed upon by both parties for the inspection of the property, being the residence and garage or carport, if applicable, located at the above address. Now, the agreed upon price, that should have been talked about a bunch of times. We deal a lot with text, so we have a history of what's going on, or an email, anything like that. If it's verbal, I stay away from verbal stuff. Everything has to be in some kind of writing. Text is fine. That way there's no ambiguity. And don't argue with the client. If you said 500 and the client says you said 450, hey, there's ways around to negotiating down a price. I go, hey, no problem. I thought it was 500, but how about 450 and you leave me a review? There you go. You just earned yourself a review for being a nice guy or lady. So the inspector will perform a visual inspection and prepare a written report of the apparent condition of the readily accessible installed systems and components of the property existing at the time of the inspection. Latent and concealed defects and deficiencies are included from the inspection. So you know that if it's open, you need to look at it. If it's behind a wall, you can't. If it's in an attic that's inaccessible, you can't. Those are excluded. Tank on the ground, you can't get to it. It's excluded. Try to find out if it's one there, and then let them know that there's one there. To be as thorough as you can. The parties agree that the standards of practice shall define the standards of duty and the conditions, limitations, and exclusions of the inspections, and are incorporated by reference herein. A copy of the standards is found at, that needs to be changed. That really should be Everyday Home Inspections. That we have it on our website. It's a legacy item that I need to replace. But anyway, wherever it's located, home inspector is ASHI, so you can absolutely use that. I like to have everything pointing to my website, our website. It's better for branding. If the state where the inspection is performed imposes more stringent standards or administrative rules, then those state standards shall define the standards of duty and the conditions, limitations, and exclusions of the inspection. You know what that means. The state rules. The parties understand and agree that the inspector and its employees and its agents assume no liability or responsibility for the cost of repairing or replacing any unreported defects or deficiencies, either current or arising in the future, of any property damage, consequential damage, or bodily injury of any nature. If repairs or replacement is done without giving the inspector the required notice, the inspector will have no liability to the client. The client further agrees that the inspector is liable only for the cost of the inspection. This is not valid in the state of Maryland, but leave it in there, offer them that back, but you're pretty much covered because you're saying that anything you can't see, you're not responsible for. Anything that happens outside of your view, you're not responsible for. A light pole could fall the next day after you leave, and it wasn't in the ground correctly. Well, you're not a pole inspector. You're just looking at it. It was straight up and down. You're welcome to shake it. Be careful because it might fall on your head, but you're not required to. And you're required to see things that are visual. And remember that. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Number 5. The parties agree and understand the inspector is not an insurer or a guarantor against defects in the structure, items, components, or systems inspected. Inspector makes, and this is in capitals, inspector, so yell it, no. Inspector makes no warranty, express or implied, as to the fitness for use, condition, performance, or adequacy of any inspected structure, item, component, or system. Again, Don't assess, don't say that something is going to work forever. Don't say something is going to be working as structurally sound or whatever. Look at it. If it looks like it needs somebody else to look at it, tell them. They need to have an expert look at it. You're not an expert. You're like a general practitioner. You're looking for things that are visible, or if the house needs windows, and if they're not working properly, let them know they're not working properly. They probably need to be replaced in the near future, or they're in poor condition. But you're not warranting anything. Could you imagine if you had to warranty everything that you did? You'd make a lot more money, but it would be a lot. You'd be an insurance company, and then what? And insurance companies do not pay out, as you already know. Most of the stuff, they have a lot of clauses in their but anyway, we're not insured, so let's move on. If the client is married, client represents that this obligation is a family obligation incurred in the interest of their family. Back to where we were talking about before. I only have one person signing, one of the buyers. Buyers might be partners, might be whatever. It's part of their group, and I consider it all, one. So who one person signs is representing the group. This agreement, including the terms and conditions of on the reverse side, represent the entire agreement between the parties, and there are no other agreements, either written or oral, between them. This agreement shall be amended only by written agreement signed by both parties. This agreement shall be construed and enforced in accordance with the laws of the state of Maryland. And if the state laws or regulations are more stringent than the forms on this then the forms of the agreement, the state law or rule shall govern. So this is a pretty ironclad agreement. It's fair to everybody. So you should have no problem with this, but don't take my word for it. Call your lawyer. Systems, items, and conditions which are not within the scope of the building inspection include, but are not limited to, radon, formaldehyde, lead paint, asbestos, toxic or flammable materials, mold, fungi, other environmental hazards, pest infestation, security and fire protection systems, household appliances, humidifiers, paint, wallpaper, and other treatments to windows, interior walls, ceilings, and floors, recreational equipment or facilities, underground storage tanks, energy efficiency measurements, concealed or private secure systems, water wells, heating system, accessories, solar systems, solar heating systems, and sprinkling systems, water softener, central vacuum system, telephone, intercom, or cable TV systems. All right, so there's a lot that is not included. And most people that read this go, well, what are you including? Well, we're including a lot. I mean, we're looking at everything, and we're including radon if you pay for it. We're including lead paint if you pay for it. We're including asbestos if you pay for it. Toxic and flammable materials if you pay for it. If you're licensed for it. If not, then they can have somebody else with that license come in and do it. Mold and fungi if you pay for it. So pest infestations if you pay for it. Or there's reasons why this stuff is not in here. Everything is not in here. Window treatments, interior wall to other treatments to windows, interior walls, ceilings, and floors. Obviously, those are cosmetic issues. Recreational equipment or facilities. That's something that's brought in. It's not part of what if you were doing an inspection, a commercial inspection for a gym, and that's what they hired you to do, then you'd have to formulate a proper price, and you'd have to be versed on how to check whether the cabling on that equipment is correctly installed so it doesn't fall and hurt somebody. So there's a lot of liabilities, and you have to carry insurance for it. Sprinkling systems, a plumber does that. A sprinkler company does that. So if I see one, I typically tell them that every 5 years it should be checked. If there's no tag in there, and the house was built 20 years ago and there's no tag on it, we don't know the last time that it was serviced. So you call for somebody else to service. You're not guaranteeing it, but it is up to you, and it should be at least an effort made to let them know what systems need to be serviced by professionals in those individual fields. All right, let me see here. Okay, so antenna lighting, we're carrying on from the last one. Antenna, lighting arresters, trees or plants, governing codes, ordinances, statutes, and covenants, manufacturer specifications. The client understands that these systems, items, and conditions are accepted from this inspection. Sorry, there's a lot of reading. Any general comments about these systems, items, and conditions of the written report are informal only and do not represent an inspection. There you go. You're just letting them know what you think and what you observe. You're there to check for structural, make sure that systems are working. You're going to find a lot outside of what we just accepted. There's a ton of stuff that you're going to find, and you're going to do a really good job because you're going to be thorough. You're going to let them know what other systems need to be done. When they move in, they're going to go, wow, the furnace is about to go up, but George told us so. And, we knew that, and we budgeted for it. We negotiated for it. We're very happy with what we ended up with. We have no surprises. Now, let me see, what was I going to say? Anyway, so just let them know and have them sign this piece of paper, and you'll be in good condition. The inspection and report are performed and prepared for the sole and exclusive use and possession of the client. No other person or entity may rely on the report issued pursuant to this agreement. In the event that any person not a party to this agreement makes any claim against the inspector, its employees or agents arising out of the services performed by inspector under this agreement, the client agrees to indemnify, defend, and hold harmless the inspector from any and all damages, expenses, costs, and attorney fees arising from such a claim. Now, I know that when we do this Zoom meeting or when we do the in-person meeting for our classes, this agreement is going to get a lot of questions from you because I asked a lot of questions when I first got into the business, and I'm glad I'm reading it today because it's good to catch up on what you include and what you don't include. Now, the reason that the client is going to indemnify you is because if they say the roof was in great condition and both parties, and then the buyer and the seller, or the seller says the roof is in great condition and the buyer accepts it, or if they sell the house to somebody else and they use our report and the roof decayed in that amount of time and they use it as we're taking a picture of the house on that day for the client, period. The inspection will not include an appraisal of the value or a survey. The written report is not a compliance inspection or certification for past or present governmental codes or regulations of any kind. And you will become very astute on what has been permitted and what has not been gotten a permit for. And you're going to be very careful in how you present that to the client. You don't want to be an alarmist, but you want to let them know that if something that doesn't look right, they may want to check building permit department to see if the permit was pulled. And a lot of realtors will do that for them anyway. Most realtors that I work for are very, very loyal to their clients. In the event of a claim by the client that an installed system or component of the premises which was inspected by the inspector was not in the condition reported by the inspector, the client agrees to notify the inspector at least 72 hours prior to repairing or replacing such system or component. The client further agrees that the inspector is liable only if there has been a complete failure to follow the standards included in the report or state law. Furthermore, any legal action must be brought within 2 years from the date of the inspection or will be deemed waived and forever barred. Again, this goes back to your insurance and what type of insurance. Make sure that it's It'll cover you for the time, for the day that you were there, and into the future for 2 years. Most policies are written that way. You're going to make sure that you test everything, and you're not going to leave anything that didn't run without commenting on it. If something did not run, you're going to know about it, and employ your client to help you. I mean, don't be afraid to say, "Hey, is air blowing out of that vent?" Let them know in their mind. Let them see for themselves that you did that part, and there won't be any discrepancies later. All right, we're getting towards the end now. We're going to finish it out. Any dispute, controversy, interpretation, or claiming, including claims for but not limited to breach of contract, any form of negligence, fraud, misinterpretation arising out of, from or related to this contract, or arising out of, from or related to the inspection or inspection report shall be submitted first to a non-binding mediation conference, and absent a voluntary settlement through a non-binding mediation to be allowed by final and binding arbitration if necessary, as conducted by the Construction Dispute Resolution Services LLC or Resolute Systems Incorporated. These are two standards, and somebody equal to them, agreeable to both of you, utilizing their respective rules and procedures. If you would like to utilize the mediation or arbitration services of another dispute resolution provider other than the ones on those so stated, please submit your recommendations to us for our consideration. If the dispute is submitted to binding arbitration, the decision of the arbitrator appointed thereunder shall be final and binding, and the enforcement of the arbitration award may be entered in any court or administrative tribunal having jurisdiction thereof. It's a big paragraph, but it's very typical to have arbitration in place of, I'm an arbitration judge, so I sit in some of these disputes, and it's interesting, but arbitration judges are very fair. It's an informal place. It's usually done at the location. It's not in a court where the judge sits. So it's actually sometimes better. And, again, it's very respectful. Okay, so the client has read this entire agreement and accepts and understands this agreement as hereby acknowledged. Client acknowledges receipt of the standards of practice which applies. And then I have them fill out their current home address, even though most of the times you're not going to reach out to them to that address. But it kind of gives you a history of who they are, their phone number. I ask them to spell out the email, their signature, one of the representatives, date it. The buyer's present. I usually do the checking for that. I check that, and I check the agent, and then a client agrees to release the report to the seller, buyer, realtor, whoever they want to release it to, and you click yes, and then you write right next to it who they agree to do it to. And they do that before they sign. You have them write that. You write that out for them, and then you hand it over for them to sign. Okay. Okay, so let me pop my head in here so you're not lonely. And there's a lot of writing. I mean, a lot of reading and a lot of talking. And I go kind of fast at times. You can rewind, stop, go take a break, go drink a coffee. Go get a coffee, what have you, and go back to it. So I hope that I hope you're getting everything that you need to out of this class, and I hope that I am just being clear enough so you understand some of that legal jargon. It's hard to read for anybody. So anyway, now comes the fun part, talking about the inspection report, and we're starting to get into the meat and potatoes of the inspecting. So get a pad out and a pen and start writing some notes. The home inspection report. This is the front page. This is what they're going to get at the very beginning. And this is going to be sent to them electronically. So you're not going to be printing this out unless they request it. I've had it requested before. I send it to the printer. I don't do it out of my own printer. Okay, so I took a little pause there. And I'm back. So okay, so yeah, so We begin by putting the property address, the date, very important. The date is extremely important because that's the day that the picture was taken of the condition of the house. And when I say picture, it's the whole entire thing. So that's very important, and that's the date that they're going to say why. The next day you're going to have the report to them, or as negotiated. The prepared for, I put everybody's name on there, all the buyers. I think it's respectful to have all the buyers there. Prepared by me, that's my license, my Maryland license. And the report number, that's also very important. Table of contents, we're going to go step by step, so I'm not going to read all of these. Let me see here. Okay. All right, so table of contents, and we'll go step by step on all of them. Okay, so this is part of Maryland's requirement that you have to have this written into the report in a very prominent position. I put it right as far forward as possible without being obnoxious, and it has to be done in bold and in at least 14 pick font. So it's kind of large. It takes a whole page, and basically it tells them in no uncertain terms what the inspector does not cover. This is the state of Maryland letting them know that this is what your limitations are. And I'll go step by step. An inspection is intended to assist in the evaluation of the overall condition of a building. The inspection is based on observation of the visible and apparent condition of the building and its components on the date of inspection. The results of this inspection are not intended to make a representation regarding latent or concealed defects that may exist, and no warranty or guarantee is expressed or implied. Again, they signed off on this. That was a separate document. They may not have read it all. A lot of times they don't. They go, they just sign it. But now you're giving it to them again, and in bold colors, and they got to read. They should read through this. So it just makes it makes it so it's obvious. If your home inspector is not a licensed structural engineer, which I'm not, or other professional whose license authorizes the rendering of an opinion as to the structural integrity of a building or the conditions of its components or systems, you may wish to seek professional opinion of a licensed structural engineer or other professional regarding any possible defects or other observations set forth in this report. Only home inspections performed by Maryland licensed home inspectors will be recognized as a valid home inspection on a real estate contract. If you're not licensed, and some guys have done inspections without licensing, without the proper license, and it's a mess. So make sure you're licensed, and if you're working for us, we'll make sure you can't work for us if you're not. Okay, so the licensee shall give the person or the person's representative the report by the date set in a written agreement by the parties to the home inspection, or within 7 days after the home inspection was performed, if no date was set in a written agreement by the parties to the home inspection. So yeah, you got 7 days. I think that's way more than you need. But I've taken as many as 3 days. Like I've done an inspection on a Friday. I was going away to Ocean City, with my family on Saturday and Sunday, and I did the inspection at the end of the day on Friday. Baby, I'm gone. And but I tell them, this is what's going to happen. I won't be back until Monday morning to do your report. And I'll make sure that I put that slot. I typically, when I take a vacation, I don't schedule me on the next day, even if it's clear on the day before the day that I'm leaving, because things happen. Okay, so anyway, the state allows 7 days, so you're not breaking any laws if you do less than 7 days. Any limitation of the liability of the licensee for any damages resulting from the report on the home inspection shall be agreed to in writing by the parties to the home inspection prior to the performance of the home inspection. So that's kind of a little bit ambiguous. I don't know what the damages resulting from the report on the home inspection shall be. I guess they're saying that if you got to break something to get to something, it has to be done in writing. So, and there's times like when the attic's not available, I don't break it. I'm not breaking anything. I'm just leaving it alone. And then the electrical panel, I usually have the realtor get permission from the other side while I'm standing there, and they usually come back and say, yeah, because sometimes the electrical panel will be painted over, and when you take the face off, you'll tear the paint. There's no way around that, but I think that's pretty much all they mean there. Okay, the house in perspective. Average built house in need of upgrades. You can write whatever you want there. 100-year-old house with cobblestone foundation, and needing windows and doors, or or it's a fixer-up, or it's a flipped house. Anyway, you'll have as much information there as you can put as much information there as you want. This is my typical average built house in need of upgrades. It pretty much covers all of them. Okay, satisfactory indicates the component is functionally consistent with its original purpose, that may show signs of normal wear and tear and deterioration. Garbage disposal that's working, but it's making a little bit of noise. It's showing signs of normal wear and tear. That's what happens when they get older. Marginal indicates the component will probably require repair or replacement anytime within 5 years. That's pretty simple. I mean, wear and tear, normal wear and tear could be allowed garbage disposal, but it could also be marginal. And poor indicates that the component will need repair and replacement now or in the very near future. If it's wobbly, if it's a fan that's wobbling, or the blades are drooping, because of the humidity has gotten to it, you typically have to go on the porch or something, and it needs to be replaced now because it's really not doing anything. Now it's the time to do it. A door that's falling, or a hollow core door that the hinges no longer hold it up, it can be replaced, but maybe it was replaced a bunch of times and it needs to be replaced. You can just put poor. Major concerns, this you'll have quite a bit of stuff. No servicing of the heating system. I put that on their major concerns. Water heater's 25 years old. I'll put that on the major concerns. You can put that on the marginal, or you can put that on their deferred items. But if it's 30 years old, I go, yeah, I could, it needs to be replaced, and I would consider that a major concern. There's other, like a window that doesn't stay up. That would be considered a safety hazard. A kid could open it up and it could fall on his head. There's a lot of different things that are going to be safety hazards. Open wires. The fire sprinkler system that is not up to snuff or hasn't been inspected for a long time, they don't even know if it's going to work. Smoke detectors that don't operate or are outdated, or if you have a house that has gas appliances and there's no carbon monoxide detector, there's no railings on the porch, and the list goes on. Okay. Let's talk about the scope of the inspection. All components designated for inspection in the ASHI standards of practice are inspected, except as may be noted in the limitations of inspections sections within this report. That's below. You can fill in anything in there that may not be part of. The carport has fallen down, and they tell you that over the phone. Hey, the home that we're going to do a home inspection, but the carport is falling down. Or you find it. When you do your report, you let them know. When you're on the site, you let them know. I can't inspect this. I can't inspect the attic because it's sealed. You put that on there, and then you're covered. The report says it, and also you'll have pictures with it, and that will correlate to your summary page, and that will let them know that it needs to be taken care of. They can negotiate to have a hole cut for the attic, and anyway. It is the goal of the inspection to put a home buyer in a better position to make buying decision, Not all improvements will be identified during the inspection. Unexpected repairs should still be anticipated. The inspection shall not be considered a guarantee or warranty of any kind. Please refer to the pre-inspection contract for a full inspection explanation of the scope of the inspection. Again, we touch on it again. We can't say it enough. And there should be no place for a lawsuit after you have told them all this. You have covered yourself in all these exclusions. You have identified all the items where they belong, and you've put limitations of the inspection. It's understood, and they're there present with you. When they're not present with you, you have them sign the agreement before you show up to the job. You have them pay you before you show up to the job. Sometimes I've had the realtor sign for them. It's their representative. Very rare, 1 or 2 times in some military or overseas. They're in the war zone. They were allowed to come out, or their parents bought the house, found the house for them. Anyway, their parents can be there. They can sign off for them, or the realtor can sign off on them, but they should be there. Unless you have requested and paid for additional inspections, you should not expect that the inspector has performed that specific inspection. Mold, for example, is a specialized inspection that uses visual and air samples to look for irregularities in breathable air. When mold is visible, samples are collected for testing, and usually this is done in conjunction with air sampling. So I see sample on the wall, I take a little tape sample, I stick it on there, I pull it off, and I send that to put it in the container and send it to the lab. Then I take air samples inside, outside, compare the two. You have to get certified for that. You need to go through classes. Like I said, there's going to be a lot more learning for you after you're done this class. This is the first hurdle. Other inspections such as termite, asbestos, lead, well water, chemical testing, septic evaluation, sewer scoping, and others not mentioned in the ASHI standards of practice were not included unless your request was confirmed. You should have already consulted with your representatives to help you determine the type of inspections needed and requested those inspections prior to the inspection appointment. Not all of the above inspections are offered by our company. Okay. Realtors are professionals also. They will sit down with their client. They're putting together an offer of purchase, and they're letting them know, hey, this is all the other inspections that are required. And they might go, how many do you want to sign off on? That's determined by them. And then they come to us and they go, how many inspections can you do for us? We try to do as many as possible. They don't want to be calling every other inspector. Plus, if you can't cover it, another inspector might cover what you are covering, and you lose the job to them. You have to be as professional as possible. You have to know as much as possible. The more you know, the better a job you're going to do. So, but it lets them know that, for example, termite. Termite is a very serious thing, and if there's a situation where we take on termite and there's an area we can't get to, that's written in the agreement that we couldn't get to a certain area. We can't cover that, and they need to go to it. They need to elevate their level of inspection. Okay. Okay, so moving on to building data. Approximate age in years, important. And reasons being, they'll come to you later. It's usually something you put into your work order. It's important for the inspector who's getting the job, getting ready to go out, to know what age house he's looking at. Different houses have different age group have different codes. Like right now, they're getting ready to go to the 2021 code, and so things are just they change over time. A house from the 60s is going to have different requirements than the house from the 90s, and different than the house from the 2020s. A house from the 40s, who knows? And you'll find out that it's it's Wild West when they got back to those dates. And okay, so Style, you got colonial, Cape Cod, townhouse, rancher, condominium, salt box, contemporary. We're going to go over all these types. We're just going over the report right now. Sorry, it was bugging me. Anyway, so we're just going over the report. We're going to touch on all these types of items. North, south, east, and west, we're not going to talk about that. You should already know that. Vacant or occupied, sunny, cloudy, raining, snow day. Important. That way it kind of lets the person know in what conditions you were working. And, in a 2-foot snowfall, you're not going to really be able to tell what the roof is doing. And yes, I have done a home inspection in 2-foot snowfall. Fun. Nothing outside. We basically disclaimed everything outside and did the interior. You can tell the roof wasn't going to cave in because there was 2 feet of snow on it. But when it thawed out, they were kind of on their own. And but they bought it anyway. And it's a couple of them. It was a time of the year that we got a really bad storm. The inspection fee, I put that on the report. You can include it in the report. You don't have to, and then how they paid: check, cash, credit card, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. Venmo and Zelle are the latest payments. Those are my favorite. PayPal, credit card, we usually send them a invoice from PayPal, and they pay for it on their own. We don't release reports until the payment has been made, and we usually add 3% for PayPal, credit card. Cash, there's obviously nothing. Check is free, cash is free, Venmo and Zelle are free. Why? Because we don't get charged anything for those. Zelle is the best. It goes to you like in 5 minutes. Not even that, 2 minutes. All right, grounds. Overall conditions. Pervious and non-pervious surfaces, are they in good condition? Pervious being grasses and landscaping and what have you, and then non-pervious surfaces, concrete surfaces, what condition are they in? You're just giving them an overall view here. You're not giving them the zoom in view of a spot on the sidewalk that's cracked or what have you. You can put poor if you want. If there's just one crack somewhere in an isolated spot and the client goes, it's okay, we'll fix that. Just put it in marginal, or just leave it like that, and then put it into a picture though. Always add it into a picture. Flower beds and landscaping, parking and driveways, stoops and steps. The stoop is where the porch actually is. Steps are leading up to it. Old terms, and we still use them. Condition, material, and do you recommend repair? You can add notes to this all you want. You have pictures and the liberty to do any amount of wording that you want. Again, when you're typing in wording, there's different methods of finding the right verbiage, and those are important. I like using AI, to be honest with you. I just will go, foundation's cracked, or concrete patio is cracked in 2 spots, and it needs to be repaired. Write me a verbiage, and it'll give you like a really eloquent way of saying it. And for those of us, we're technical. We don't always write the best, but that's what the help has come. That's what AI is really good to add. Anyway, deck or patio. You can delete deck if it's a patio. You can delete patio if it's a deck, or you can add more space in between there and add deck and patio. And again, condition, material, and recommend. Hose bibs, are they satisfactory or not satisfactory? Again, open them and close them. Are there none? Are they self-draining or not self-draining? That's the part where it's freezable. It could freeze in the wintertime or not freeze in the wintertime. Self-draining tend to not freeze in the wintertime. They're frost-proof. I'll say that in quotes because they can, if the house is not insulated properly. Not self-draining, those need to be winterized. Fencing, pretty simple. Satisfactory, marginal, and poor. Retaining walls, again, satisfactory, marginal, and poor. Now, retaining walls are walls that are holding up a patio that's elevated. You got different terracing going on. Make sure that you write if it's leaning over. There's wood retaining walls. There's all kinds of different retaining walls. We've boiled it down to just one. The report used to be really long, much longer, and we kind of dialed it back because we like putting it in those pictures. We tend to rely more on pictures than we do on this part, and we click through this part really fast. Sometimes we'll click incorrectly, but we'll put a picture in that actually corrects our mistake, and then we'll get a call from the realtor, and they'll go, hey, you put satisfactory for the fence, but then you have a picture that says unsatisfactory, and then we correct that, and then we put we'll put a little note that says, we're actually going to add a note, I should say. We had this conversation not that long ago where it says, make the picture supersede, but you always want to repair. Anyway, sewage facilities, ejector type. We're going to talk about all this later. Public sewage, private septic, satisfactory, marginal, or poor, or none. Obviously, it has something. Sometimes we'll take none and click there and put by others. If private septic is being done by others, I will put that on there. It's not included in our part, but sometimes you just want to make sure that you let them know, especially if they're like, well, I think it's fine. The seller says it's okay. It's on them, but just to make sure that they know that you didn't cover it. Okay, so now here's our placement for pictures. You can just click on that, and then a dialog box will come up where all your pictures are placed, and you can start replacing them. This has been shortened. The ground section has like 20 places for pictures. You may have to delete some sections or add some, but it was shortened for this. Exterior, gutters and downspouts. What material are they? Aluminum, metal, plastic, or copper? Are they leaking? If they are, where? You're not ever going to be able to tell if they're leaking or not. If it's a sunny day and it's dry, you can, with clear conscience, right now, because you're taking a picture, you're taking a visual assessment of what you see that day. You're not going to get a hose and put it up on the roof and see if it leaks. If they want you to, you can, but that's all added, and or you can let them do it, and that's never done. And if it's a one-piece gutter, if it's going to leak, it's going to leak on the ends. Typically, you tell them that. When you step away from the house, you should be able to tell whether it's leaning correctly, pitched correctly, and that's all important. If it's pitched wrong, then you know there's a problem. If there's stains over the side of it, this is going to become secondhand to you. It seems like a lot doing 72-hour class, but it's a 2.5-hour journey around the house that you're going to do 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 times. You're going to get really good at it. There are extensions needed. You can usually tell that, if there's holes in front of the gutter or if it's going down the side of the foundation, and what condition they're in. Siding, what materials? Vinyl, aluminum, wood, composite, or brick. And yes, brick can be siding. Brick facade is a siding of brick that's just one layer, and we're going to talk about that later. What condition they're in, flashings. If it's vinyl siding, it usually has vinyl flashing, like the corners and the edging or the J-channel. That's all flashing. And then you all have some metal flashing. You might have aluminum flashing. What type of soffit is it? And what condition it's in. And the fascia, what's visible. If it's behind the gutter, you may not be able to see it all, but you can peek underneath it and you can tell what it is, and you can tell what condition it's in. If you can touch it, the better. It's even better. Caulking, what condition it's in. Does it need caulking, or was it not put on? Windows and screens. These I'll test from inside. The screens you can see from outside, and you can tell whether a screen is missing or not, and then you can just make a note if there's some screens missing. Again, if their screens are missing, I say they're not there. They might be in the garage. Realtors like to remove screens so the house looks brighter, and they open up all the curtains. And, they don't want the screen to block the sunlight because it makes the house look better. But if it's in the garage, it's missing. I don't see it. I see them. They can say they see them, but unless they're installed and in place, they're missing. Service location, and we're going to talk about all this later also. Location, front, rear, side, overhead, on the ground, or internal. Internal would be a condo. You won't see where it's coming in, but you know where the panel is and what condition it's in. Exterior receptacles, are they present? Are they operable? And what condition they're in? Now, this is different from if the GFI present or not. Condition meaning you can open the flap and close the flap, and it's in good condition. You can see that it's waterproof, so that means that it's okay. But a GFI is missing, or you recommend that GFI has open ground. You're going to have your testing tools to check it all. All those things are potential safety hazards. Even if it's open, it's got a GFI, but the cover's loose on it, that's a safety hazard. What is the framing? What is the construction of the exterior wall? Is it masonry with brick on the outside, or even masonry with stucco on the outside, or even just masonry painted, or a concrete block painted? That would be masonry. Framed would be a wood house, which is very common on the Northeast. In what condition? Now, the condition means that it's not leaning one way or the other, that the roof is not, dipping in the middle. You'll be able to tell, or you push on the wall. I've pushed on walls for whatever reason, and they've moved. And that's a scary situation. Front door, what's it made out of, weather stripping, what condition it's in, the door condition, and the rear and basement door types. I will sometimes mix these. I just like to shorten the report as much as possible. You can write a note, because right next to clad, you can put front door clad and then basement door steel, or you can separate these out, or you can remove rear, or you can remove basement. All of it is adaptable. And we're going to go to the next slide. Okay, I'm out of the picture. I'm going to turn it off for a minute or a little bit so I can turn some of these lights off. And sit back and just do a little bit of teaching without having to have all these backlit stuff and the lights, they get to your eyes after a while when you're reading so much. Anyway, now we're at the roof. Roof visibility should be 100%. If it's anything less than 100%, you're going to call it out. It's going to be in the report, and it's going to be one of the pictures. So you better see it all. There's no excuse for not seeing. If you see partial 25, 50, or 75, it's fine. Call it out. And 100% is what you should see. Then you don't. If nothing's wrong, then you don't have to call anything out. But if something's wrong, then you'll take pictures. And you can take a ladder. I look at the houses as before I go out. I look at pictures, and I decide whether I'm going to take my big ladder or not. I talk to the client and let them know that, I may need to get up on the roof. I may not. I may tell them. I may not. You don't have to. You can fly the drone. It's perfectly acceptable. It's actually safer. Like we were saying before, if you're in 100-degree weather and those shingles are soft, you're going to leave footprints. You do not want to climb up on the roof. Anyway, what type of roof is it? Asphalt, cedar, slate, or metal? What type of pitch? Approximate age in years. Now, we're going to talk again a lot about all this stuff. It's hard. You can't tell how old the roof is. It's not an exact science. But if a house is 30 years old and the first set of roof, 30 years ago they were putting 20-year shingles on roofs. So you're going to look for a roof that's 10 years old. If it was replaced within 10 years. You can say 10 plus or minus, and you would be just fine. Sometimes they just got a brand new roof, and that will be part of the sale. The disclosure. They're always proud to boast about a new roof. So there's no shame in looking at the listing or ask the realtor that's going to be there with you, did they tell us how old the roof is? And they'll go, oh yeah, it's 5 years old. You can definitely tell. You can get on the eave. You can climb up on the edge of the roof and look at it and tell what condition it's in, the drone gets really excellent pictures. And I get down close to it, and there's really like no substitute for it because you can zoom in. How many layers? You want no more than one layer? Well, 2 is acceptable. I wouldn't want more than one. 2 is acceptable. 3 is not. So if you see a house with 3 layers on, they would have had to have used really thick, long nails to get all those shingles to bind, and they're not going to bind. It's going to be so if the house is being sold and they recently got a 3rd layer, I've seen the 3rd layer the roof removed after a purchase because it was just too much weight. It slides. It's going to slide downhill, and think about the weight on a structure. Oh my God. What kind of ventilation system? If it's at a ridge, a soffit, a gable, a turbine, a powered or passive. Powered being it has a fan on it. Passive just means that nothing powering it. I don't always click on the passive part. I will click on the powered part. But if it's ridge, soffit, and gable, passive is kind of assumed. Flashing materials, galvanized aluminum, copper, rubber, lead. There's so many different types of roofs we're going to get into later, and we'll discuss all the different types of roofing. This is where you place it. You can add, or you can replace one of these little. You can replace lead with asbestos or metal or galvanized or I can't think of the name now. The other stone, but anyway, flashing material, flashing condition is it satisfactory? Plumbing vents. Is there plumbing vents? 99.9% of the time, yes. The only plumbing vents that don't go through a roof are usually old houses that had them hanging from the side of the house, and they were retroactive. So it's pretty old houses that were installed that way. The condition, skylight condition. If you're flying a drone around a skylight, make sure you get all sides. You're going to want to know all sides and what condition they're in, how many repairs that were done on, and then the condition of the skylight you'll know from inside. Roof condition, you'll put it on there. Okay. Kitchen, countertops, granite, laminate, Corian tile, quartz. What condition? Cabinets, laminate, wood, metal. What condition? I also look at how they were installed, especially the wall cabinets. A lot of guys will use drywall screws because they're easily found. They're cheap, and they usually have a pouch full of them. I will call that out. It's something that needs to be upgraded. Plumbing, faucet leaks, pipes leak, functional drainage, functional flow. Drainage meaning what's under the sink. Functional flow is what's above the sink. What's the faucet. And you can turn on, in the bathroom, I usually turn everything on and flush the toilet. If I notice a really deep decline in pressure, I may call it out. And when you're doing wells, you're going to want to know this. I mean, the wells get tested for flow and different types of things that we're also going to get into later. Heating source, is it warm in there? Some bathrooms don't even have a heating vent, but they're central in the house, and they're surrounded by heat on all 4 sides, underneath and above. So I typically will just say, yeah, I'll say no, but I'll explain to the client, hey, you're fine. Floor condition, disposal, is it operable? Not operable. Be careful with those. Oven, use it. Run the oven. Run the range. You can have it all on at the same time. You'll know if circuit breaker's going to blow because that's pulling a lot of energy out of it. Refrigerator, microwave, wine cooler is in there. Very rare do we have a wine cooler, but but enough that we left it on there. The dishwasher, is it operable? Not operable? Is it leaking water? So just keep an eye on it. I usually put it on, first thing I do once I'm done the exterior stuff, and I walk inside and I go to the kitchen to have them sign the paperwork. I give them a couple of minutes to sign the paperwork. Give them time to read it, and then I turn the dishwasher on and I turn the washer and dryer on, the clothes washer and clothes dryer. And then that way, while I'm in the kitchen doing it, I can tell if there's going to be a leak or not. Okay, so dishwasher air gap, where I think we talk about that later. Dishwasher drain air line looped, we'll also talk about that later. Receptacles present, and that's like almost anywhere there's wet areas, you're going to want GFIs. So that's all covered here. Recommended GFIs, and then write hazard. And then I wrote some notes. Yeah, here we go. So in the kitchen, we put in some pictures to let you know that some of the notes that we wrote. Ice maker is inoperable. Recommend licensed contractor evaluate or repair as needed. That it was inoperable for whatever reason. There was one installed. If one is not installed, then you just you don't really have to write anything. If there's no water to it, and then one is not installed, and that's the way they purchased it. The dishwasher leaks, as we spoke before. You wanna make sure that you know whether it leaks or not, and be ready with towels and stuff in your truck to dry. I carry a broom, I carry towels, I carry paper towel, carry 2 rolls of paper towels, and just in case, the realtor will also carry some town stuff. They're very good at making sure that everything is hunky-dory. They don't want any problems. If the kitchen faucet is loose, call it out. The range is missing an anti-tilt device. An anti-tilt device it's sold with every range, and it's meant to keep it from tilting over if somebody steps on the door. And guess who's going to step on the door? A child. Children have died because of it. Not doesn't happen that often, but if it happens once, it's too many. So keep an eye on that. Garbage disposal is inoperable. I just have a picture of the kitchen, so I put it on there just so you know what everything. I don't just write the good, the bad. I mean the bad and the ugly. I also put the good in there. There's no reason for you not to have pictures of the entire kitchen. Garbage disposal wire is not properly attached and protected, so that should be tucked back and then bungee cord, zip tied. So if you're sliding a trash can and stuff on there, you're not rubbing up against it, and it won't, break over time. That's the reason for that. And then the dishwasher drain line is not looped. I usually put this on the major concerns. Sometimes I'll put it on their improvement or items not working. It depends on how I feel that day, but it really is a major thing. If it's clean and not, it doesn't look like it's got any issues, and then I might put it on their improvement or not working. If it's got a lot of dirt in it, I'll put it on the major concern. That means that a lot of dirt is washing back into the dishwasher, as explained in this note. Interiors. Overall condition of the floors, the walls, the ceilings, self-explanatory. Stairs, steps, and balconies, again, self-explanatory. Risers, we'll talk about the width and height of a riser, and you don't want a big change in risers. You want the stairs to be solid. Smoke detectors. Smoke detector should be present. The condition should be good. It should be a modern one. It should be less than 10 years old. And I see our carbon monoxide detectors present. If there are gas appliances in the house, then it definitely should have it. It should have it anyway, but you'll get pushback from realtors who say, "Oh, there's no gas appliances, so why does it have?" If there's a fireplace, it should have it, even if there's nothing but gas appliances. Okay, so the attic structure, framing, insulation. Is there attic access? Yes. So then you inspected it from the attic. If you already know, you can skip a lot of these. and you're going to write a note that there's no attic access in one of the pictures. But inspected from, location, access limited. So location is kind of important. Access limited, kind of important. Flooring, yes or no. Insulation, yes or no. If there's a floor, was it done properly? Was it raised so it didn't crush the insulation? And we talk about all this later also. Compressed, yes or no. Installed between ceiling joists or in the ceiling rafters. Do you recommend more? A lot of times I'll say yes, just because the modern insulation requirements are so much higher than they used to be. Vapor barriers, that's usually not visible because insulation is above it, and the vapor barrier is behind. It's between the drywall and the insulation itself, so you can't see it. Ventilation present. You'll know. We'll talk about ventilation, and we touched it a little bit on the roof, and this is where you'll see it. Do fans exhaust the attic? That's a major problem. HVAC ducts present. Not a problem if it is or it isn't, but it should be insulated. Structural problems observed. Yes, important. Roof structure satisfactory. And that's pretty much like the whole entire structure. Not just the joist, like the supports that should support the roof. Ceiling joist, and that's, down low where the insulation is. That's what's holding up the drywall for the ceiling below. Kind of important that it's in good condition. Try not to walk on attics. So many people go through, they lose their balance and they step on drywall and they crack it. You can see most of it through the access. So sheathing, you can look up and see if it's okay or not. If you see any mold stuff, call it out. Make sure you call out anything that looks irregular color-wise, because if there's mold present, they're going to want to know that they need to have somebody else come through there. Remember, they're not going to call somebody else or go up on the attic. You're the person that's looking for this stuff. You're not required to, but it's good to be thorough. Evidence of condensation, evidence of moisture, evidence of leaking. Electric present, most of the time there is. There's nothing wrong with that. The lighting and everything needs wiring. So, you'll see all that. Okay, so interior, yes, the front door is part of the interior. The storm door is in poor condition. There's something wrong with it. The closer is missing or is disconnected, so you're going to want to put that into your report. So the first floor is missing a smoke and carbon monoxide detector. That's a licensed electrician issue. Abandoned fire alarm and doorbell should be removed or replaced. Yeah, why leave them behind? Just call it out that way and just put improvement. Now, if they want to leave it, they can. Interior. Fireplace is in poor condition. There were some cracks in this one. And the screen is missing. There's no door. Flue is dirty and should be serviced annually. I will obviously recommend that a service technician evaluate and service it immediately. Rear sliding door is not locked and the lock is inoperable. And more interior, just showing them that I'm going upstairs and there's a mold-like substance growing in the attic. Look at that. You want to call that out. You want to test for it. The roof sheathing is wet and soft. I walked up there and pushed on it. There's a floor that showed that maybe more insulation should be installed. Okay, so now we're going to the powder room, and we're going to pause here. Okay, so we're on to powder room, and the bathrooms are all very similar in the report, not similar in real life. In real life, they're all going to have their different eccentricities, for the lack of a better word. So some bathrooms will have two his and her sinks on either side of the bathroom or right next to each other. They may have a tub and then a shower. You see all kinds of different combinations. So you'll have to adjust your reporting accordingly. But as far as like the basics, we're going to probably breeze through them as we go. We'll start with the powder room. So floors, walls, ceilings, sinks, and toilet. What condition are they in? And these sections can be copied somewhere else, or other sections can be copied here. You can embellish a powder room, and this will be part of our, our question and answer. And you can add. We'll teach you. We'll give you some more hands-on as far as how to deal with. It's a Word document, so it's really easy to change. And then we save it as a PDF. In the future, we'd like to have a PDF, a native PDF, but it's a little complicated to build them and then to add sections and all. So we're in the process of doing that. For right now, it's a word processor, Microsoft Word, and hopefully you're versed on Microsoft Word. Just copy and paste, and you will know how to do it. Okay, so electrical receptacles present, yes, no, not operable. GFI's presence where needed. So technically in a bathroom it's needed everywhere. So if it's not there, some bathrooms have multiple areas, and so you might do the powder room. To be honest with you, this doesn't even apply here. It's needed. In the powder room, it's needed. Recommend GFI receptacles, yes or no. Open ground reverse polarity, yes or no. If it's yes, there's a hazard. Exhaust fans present and working, yes or no. And I typically like to test them to see if they're pulling. I'll take off a piece of paper out of my my clipboard, and I'll put it up against it and see if it holds the piece of paper up. If it does, it's pulling, and then I'll try to go outside and see where it's going and see if the little flaps are open. You're going to be doing a lot of walking back and forth when you get to these kind of issues. Heating source present, yes or no. We talked about this before. If it's a powder room and it's central to the house, it may not be present, but it might be okay. So if it's on an outside wall, then you'll definitely want it. Egress, that's if there's stuff in the way, if there's a toilet in the way. Believe it or not, I've seen toilets like blocking a door. It's crazy. So doors and windows, missing hardware, windows condition, and none is first because typically a powder room will not have a window, but more times than not, or I should say less times than not, it will have it. Okay, so we didn't do any pictures for that because there's 4 pictures. It's pretty simple. You can add more pictures to it. We're just rolling through this now. Bedrooms, got 3 bedrooms. You can change that to 4, 5, 6, 8, however many you have. And as a whole, this is where we shrunk this down. So if it has 5 bedrooms, they're typically all in the same condition. If one is different than the others, you can call that out in a picture. But you're gonna, and I'll show you how we draw a little sketch of the bedrooms, and then while we're taking notes in our inspection guide that we use as we walk around, we'll have a layout of how many bedrooms there is, and then we'll be able to tell where that window is broken and which bedroom it is. And then in the pictures, we'll put bedroom number 4 or northeast or north top left bedroom or rear left bedroom. You'll be able to identify it. But as a whole, we used to have bedrooms 5, and you'd have these questionnaire for each bedroom. It was very redundant, and we shrunk it down to just one area for all the bedrooms. And if the floors are poor in one of the bedrooms, you can call it poor in one bedroom. You can make that note right here. You'll everything is here that you need to document it, and then the pictures will tell the story. Okay, so receptacles, open ground, reverse polarity. If you have reverse polarity in one, you just write yes hazard, and then and then in the picture you'll put in one. You can put yes hazard, and then dash, rear left bedroom, and ceiling fans, heating source present. Again, same as everything else. Heating source present should be in every bedroom. Egress restricted. Again, egress could be the exterior windows. If the windows, egress means being able to get out if there's a fire. So if the rear window, if the windows don't open, you have an egress problem. Doors conditions, what condition they're in, missing hardware. Windows condition, missing hardware. Hall bathroom, same as pretty much the same as the powder room, except now we have tubs and showers, and then we have a tub and shower area. It's a ceramic. What condition the caulking is in, what condition the ceramic is in, what condition the caulking is in, drainage, water flow, moisture stains present. Moisture stains being on the wall. Is the ventilation not proper? And shower doors condition, open them and close them. Make sure they work okay. Shower windows. Old houses, they used to put shower windows in. It's the dumbest thing ever, but they did it, so we have to call it out. Make sure they're in okay condition. And we're going to go over all this in step by step. Again, we're just talking about the report. Each section has its own process. And we're going to go over it all over again in more detail. Electrical presence, yes or no, not operable. GFI presence where needed. Again, bathrooms should have it. In a bathroom, powder room is only going to be, it's going to be a very small room. The bathroom, if it wasn't required when the house was built, then it may not be required now, except where the sinks are. A blow dryer cord is 5 feet, 6 feet. So if there's an outlet really far away, you may not want to call it. You may say it's okay. It's there where it needs to be. You're not going to use the blow dryer to blow dry your hair from a circuit that's 6 feet away when you have one at the sink. Now it's the only one. So it's kind of common sense. You're welcome to call it all out. And when all else fails, go for the safety and call them all out. Just say yes, need it. Open ground polarity, blah, blah, blah. Main bathroom, same thing. And we call it a main bathroom. It's no longer a master bathroom. That's not good verbiage. It's not good to call a master bathroom. It's a main bathroom. It's you can call it the owner's bathroom. Okay, so and educate your clients that that's not what we do anymore. And it's the proper name is main or owner. Okay, so moving on to the basement. So once you've done all the first floor, you've done the second floor, you've done all the bathrooms, you've done all the rooms. There might be some playrooms upstairs. You're going to call all them out. Playrooms are sometimes also bedrooms, but you can call it out on its own. And then you're going to work your way downstairs. You have done the attic, because that's on the second floor or the top floor, or whatever. You're at the top of the house. Then you're going down to the basement. Usually, everything like I always tell my clients, all the answers are in the basement. So, structure, is it full, partial, basement, or crawl space? If it's a crawl space, where's the access located? Overall conditions, floors, walls, ceilings, handrails, risers and treads, headway over stairs. If you're hitting your head over going down the stairs, then it's poor. If you just barely nick it, or it's just over your head, you're 5'10", a 6'1" person might hit it. So you can just write marginal. Foundation, the condition. Some of this is redundant, and there's reasons for it. You can take some of it out if you want. concrete blocks, stones, bricks, horizontal cracks, step cracks, vertical cracks, covered walls, movement apparent, indication of moisture. Any moisture, water, or anything has to be called out. That is major. Okay, so we did the foundation, we did the overall floor condition up top, but now we're hitting it again. And it's okay to be redundant. The first one was overall floors. If there's carpeting in one room and not on the other, but you go into the utility room and you see that it's concrete, so it's really a concrete floor. It's not a carpet floor. Carpet is just the finish on it. And you can say that you can take a picture of it, and if the carpeting needs stretching, you can call that out. But the concrete floor is good. It's not leaning. It's not sunken somewhere. Drainage is proper because there's no moisture stains anywhere. And the sump pump is present and in good condition. Floor drains, we're going to talk about those later also. Floor drains should drain to a sump pump, not to the municipal sewer system. And girders, are they steel or wood, and what condition they're in? Columns, are they steel, wood, concrete blocks, or concrete? What condition they're in? And joists, wood or steel, and what condition they're in? And if they're sagging, you'll know that there's a problem. Sagging means there's supports halfway through, like in the middle of it. We'll talk about these later also. Pictures. Basement walls have cracks from movement, and floors are in poor condition. Basement stairs are unsafe. You can see there. I was scared walking down these. Basement beams are sagging. That's the main beams. So I don't have an arrow to it. I should, but it was very prominent. And basement walls have cracks from movement, and floors are in poor condition. That's spelled out incorrectly. You'll do this too. Sorry. And there may be need for waterproofing. And I should have added recommend license, but at least I covered that. Basement wall cement coverings are flaking off. Recommend licensed contractor evaluate. Yeah, so I covered it here. There appears to have been previous fire, and the joints have been painted over. As you can see, that's a sign of a painted over beam, wood beam. That when you paint over fire damage, that's what happens. Okay, laundry area. Floors, walls, and ceilings. Laundry sink, yes or no. Faucets leak, yes or no. Even if there's no sink, write whether the faucets leak. The faucets to the appliances, anything that leaks, write it on here. Cross connections we're going to explain to you later in the plumbing aspects, and you'll know what it is. That usually means that there's a laundry sink that's pulling up water. Very rare. Room vented, dryer vented. We'll talk about that also. Receptacles present, open ground, reverse polarity. You'll test with your tools. And appliances present, washer and dryer should be there. Sometimes furnace and water heater are also in the same room. And there's not really no good reason for them all to be called out. But if you see something that stands out, there shouldn't be, like, water on the floor, or they're close to each other. Anyway, you want to call it out if they're all in the same room. And are the washer hookup lines and valves satisfactory? That means that they're hooked up. You're not going to really do much with them. You're not going to turn open and close valves. If the water's off, leave it off. Okay, so the main house laundry, a couple of pictures of it. Garage laundry areas unconditioned. Room recommended. These are same house had 2 laundry areas. Garage laundry area is unconditioned. It's an unconditioned room. So again, see that they insulated all the pipes, and so it's cold in the wintertime. That kind of works against the dryer is heating up. Everything is working against each other in that room. I didn't really care for that. Plumbing, public or private, sewer, public or private. We did some of this up front, but do it again. Main shutoff, where is it located? You can change any one of those letters, any one of those words to represent where it was really found. What type of piping? We're going to talk more about galvanized, copper, and CPVC. Lead, you usually don't know unless you test for it. Visible water piping, what type is it? Cross connections, we'll talk about that later. Is it cross-connected or not? Drain, waste, and vent pipe present? Yes, usually there is. Drain condition, support and insulation needed. Support or insulation, if the pipes are hanging and they're loose, you need support. If it needs insulation because it's in an unheated space, you'll write it in there. And then you'll make a note of it on the pictures. So this is just letting them know that, hey, look somewhere else. Traps proper, PEEP type, yes or no. Functional drainage, main fuel shut off. If it's all electrical appliances, then it's not applicable. If it's in the basement, first floor, second floor, or outdoors. The water heater, the brand name, serial number, capacity, approximate age and year, type, combustion air venting present, not applicable if it's electric, yes or no if it's gas, and it better be. Seismic, in meaning there should be venting. Their door should be a big room with holes underneath the door. A relief valve, extensor proper. We'll talk about all this later. Vent pipe, and we're touching on this all up front because later you're going to go, oh, that's what he meant, and then you're going to do reports on your test reports that are going to reinforce all this. So you're going to be touching on this so many times that it's going to be, it's going to be difficult at first, but over time it's going to become secondhand. And if you notice, all the first clicks are what typically you find. So you come down here and you click public, basement. If something is different, then you go over there. But mostly everything on the first row is laid out to represent what's easiest, what's typically there. And combustion air venting present on the water heater if it's gas. Extensors proper, blah, blah, blah. And here's some plumbing issues. The water is shut off and the plumbing drain has been cut and left open. That was weird. So there's sewer gases coming into the room. The water heater exhaust pipe is rusted. That usually means that it's not venting properly. So this situation is not good because improper venting can allow carbon monoxide to come back into the house. And anyway, there's a whole bunch of reasons why that's condensating, and we'll get into it more later. But one of the things they want to do is you want to call an HVAC person to evaluate that and do something about it. So the water heater down here, the water heater exhaust fan has been sealed with duct tape, which is funny. It's not that kind of duct. The flue in the unit should be evaluated for safety. Carbon monoxide systems should be installed in the home. You're thinking safety is the most important thing you can cover in the home inspection. Everything else is secondary to safety. Safety is number one, and then everything else, important items follow closely behind it. And the main water line is galvanized. Again, we're going to touch on that later because we're going to be talking about plumbing a lot. Main house water heater is under the stairs. That's just the location. That was a bad picture that I had, but it's the only picture that I had. And I didn't want to go all the way back. So there was 2 water heaters in this house. And one was the apartment over the garage, as you can see below. And then the other one was hidden underneath the stairs. Now, I didn't get a really good picture of it, but I identified it, and they know where it's at if they were looking for it. And I did it twice. So, as you can see, I'm not perfect, but I'm showing you that. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be thorough. Main water shut off to the garage and apartment in the garage, and there is a hose that travels from here and into the ground that could not be identified. Yeah, that hose could not be identified. Again, the verbiage doesn't sound all that great. I might go back and fix it for my classes so I don't look like I don't know how to. But anyway, this was a big report. This is just part of another report. And anyway, there was a lot going on, and that hose could not be identified. That was discussed with the client, and it was discussed with the realtor. So there was no ambiguity, and they knew what was going on. Main sewage line is in the crawl space. See that going into the ground, and main house water shutoff is also in the crawl space. Okay, so the electrical system is a very short part of the report. It's not here, so I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to bring it back probably towards the end of the class. I'll bring it back out to show you, but it really only shows what amperage, location amperage, type, other things that are, I'm going to do it at the end of this slideshow because we're talking about the report today. So I'm going to finish this part, and then I'm going to add it to the very end. I'm going to correct all this right now, and I'm going to show you exactly what is in there. It's only like 6 items. There's not a lot. It's not very. But anyway, the more important part will be when we do the actual talking and descriptions of what different type of electrical panels, how they work, and what you need to look for. But in this one, we wrote that we showed the main electrical panel closed and open. Always take pictures of both ways so they know that you opened it. And then the sub panels in the garage is in poor condition. It has a couple of holes in the face, and the cover screw is missing. So this cover was just loose. A kid could just go up there and take it off. And sub panel, it has a 60 amp breaker. The unit supplies the garage and the apartment above. That was a lot that it was supplying from the main panel, the main electrical panel above, to the lower panel, 60 amps, that was supplying the garage, the washer and dryer that we saw before, and the apartment above it. I was pulling a lot out of 60 amps. So I recommend that a licensed electrician evaluate for suitability and advise as needed. As you can tell, I mean, you don't have to be an electrician. You just kind of have to know, like, yeah, this might be a situation where I think somebody else should get involved, not to waste their money, but for safety purposes. Okay, the garage. Floors, walls, ceilings type, car capacity. You have 2 door openers, and we're going to talk about the safety reverse, the safety hazard, photo eyes, open, operable. Those are different safety features for a garage, and there's 2 openers that are here. You can add 3rd or 4th, however many garage. I've had garages with you know, 8-car garage. Yes, you'll do houses like that eventually. What floor material, floor condition, sill plates, are they elevated or not? There's reasons for that. If they're on the floor, then you know they can get wet. And then overhead door material, and then there's different safety items that used to be around before, and you might find a house or two. Some of the things were taken off this because we don't see them anymore, but there's areas of the country you might see it more, and you can always add it back. You can always add comments in the pictures. You just got to know them, and we'll talk about that stuff later. Overhead door material, blah, blah, blah. Fire separation, we'll talk about that also. You have to have a certain amount of fire separation between a garage and a house, and what condition it's in. Is it a safety hazard if it's in bad condition? Are moisture stains present? Are there typical cracks? Which I don't know why we call them typical cracks, but garages sometimes have cracks that shouldn't be there. They need to be fixed. So if there are cracks in the garage, you need to call it yes, and then you have to say that they need to be fixed. Fire door, there should be a fire door between the house and the garage. And if it's not verifiable, you have to write that on there. If it's not a fire door, if it's a hollow core door and you know it's not a fire door, then you need to put not a fire door and recommend repair. Not verifiable, it's a flip of the coin to you. If it's a steel door and it has some fire protection, you probably say not verifiable, and it should close by itself completely, so it's not left open and carbon monoxide drifts into the house. Here's some garage openings. Again, it's that same house. This is a different house. And you can add additional pages. You can customize your report by adding pools and spas, evaporative coolers, custom pages, boilers, irrigation systems, and more. The sky's the limit. Here's a sample of a pool and spa and different stuff that you can talk about. This will be a separate class, so we're not going to get into it in detail here. But you want to call out all the things in a system. I don't have any notes or whatever. We're going to talk about it a little bit more in detail later. And again, this is an added class. And that ends that section. But I am going to go back. I'm going to add the electrical part. So hang tight. Okay, let me pop my head back in here. That was a lot easier than I thought. So we added the electrical system. I actually put it where it belongs in the right sequence. So electrical system location, condition, adequate clearance, very important, and we're going to talk about that later. And it's not a lot there, but all of it is important. That's why I thought we needed to add this on right now before going any further. Anyway, adequate clearance through the panel is important. You got to be able to get to it to shut things off if there's an issue. Amperage and voltage, the type, breakers or fuses. You don't see fuses that much anymore, but you will see it. What we do see now is newer type of breakers, which we'll also talk about later. More modern, more expensive, which are GFCI and AFCI breakers are the newest. The main wire material, is it aluminum, copper, or I don't know why core is on there, but aluminum or copper are the two main varieties, and they're usually aluminum. Main wire condition, that's important. And then the branch wire, there's only two types, copper and aluminum. You want it to be copper. If it's aluminum, you're gonna make sure you explain some things to them that we're going to talk about later. And that's it for this, the branch wire condition. Well, here we go. We burned up another 2 hours of class, or close to it. Where does the time go when you're having fun? Okay, well, thanks for going through this class with me, and stand by for your next test.